Hey there, listener. Welcome to the Deep Share Podcast. I'm your host, Andy Rouse, and for the last couple of decades, I've slowly been opening my eyes to a very different world than the one I grew up hearing about. And the more conversations I have with interesting people, the more mystifying this world becomes. So without further ado, let's get deep.
We've got science to celebrate! Demons list out! Up to Pacific, come on!
There is rebellion in the wind. It will be crushed.
Everything I've said is true. It's real.
Dinosaur fossils? God put those here to test our faith.
A damn lie. I saw them with my own eye.
Did IQs just drop sharply while I was away?
We did illusions, man! None of it is true!
I'm not insane!
This is mass madness, you maniac! In God's name, you people are the real thing! We are the illusion!
So, welcome to episode 2 of the Deep Share Podcast. I am here with my friend Dan Cormier. It's been a long time, Dan.
It's been a while. I think the last time I saw you was probably
Wandering around
Roots Fest or
probably something like that, maybe. But before
that,
Dan played my wife down the aisle at our wedding with the Beatles, and it was
I did
absolutely beautiful.
That was a wonderful wedding, and it influenced where I wanted to get married.
I know.
That's where I got married.
Yeah, that's great. I love it. It's a great place to get married. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
And we lucked out with the weather. I don't know, how'd you guys fare?
It was the heaviest rain I've ever felt in my life.
Well,
but
hey, that's supposed to be good luck, right?
It was awesome. It was awesome.
So Dan and I have never really had a chance to sit down and talk. My wife and you guys knew each other.
Yeah.
And my wife has always said, Dan's into some weird stuff like you are. You guys are bound to have a conversation at some point.
Yeah,
so,
good.
I mean, who knows where we could start? I know that you and I have kind of like talked back and forth recently about the current events and the psychotic craziness that's going on in Washington and everything. Mm-hmm. I know you were a Q guy. Are you still a Q guy? Are you holding strong?
I get asked that every day. You know, and I keep answering this the same way, and maybe I want to try to rephrase it when I answer this question. If anything, just the past 3.5, it's been over 3 years. Mm-hmm. The way everything has played out and the preciseness of information to see. Let me say this.
Yeah,
Going back now, you can go back and go back to posts in early 2018, and all that information is out now. So yes, I still am a Q guy. Mm-hmm. I never had expectations on any sort of the arrests that we were all hoping to see. Mm-hmm. I never had a set date, and I think that a lot of people who had this time frame of when things are going to happen, I think, is what's really, turned people off. And if anything, more people right now are even afraid to come out and say that they are interested in it or supported it because, from what I can tell, and just my, quick diving into Matrix media, they are demonizing everybody. So it's not the best position to be in.
No.
But it is. Because, for anybody who's been, aware of Q, we've collectively changed the timeline of events in my eyes. I think by becoming aware of this information, we've collectively changed it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, I'm still trusting the plan. I have to. I've seen stuff.
Fair enough.
I mean, that's kind of a weird answer. I didn't really went in a bunch of different directions, but.
Well, hey, I mean, it's kind of. I would say it's not exactly the easiest yes/no. Because
totally.
of what's been going on.
Yeah.
I mean, in my mind, I'm going all over the place. I don't know if my paranoia is getting the best of me, and I just keep second guessing even what I've already uncovered.
Sure.
Because. Yeah, it's very confusing right now because you look at a guy like Trump, and is Q even necessarily 100% connected to the idea that you have to be like thinking that Trump is going to save everybody? Maybe not necessarily him. I don't know, because what worries me about him is lifelong elite
Democrat.
Absolutely.
And I never even really thought of it that angle. All 4 years I've been like, okay, I don't like him as a person, but I never have. He's a celebrity. He's an elite, blah, blah, blah. But it seems like he's going up against not one person, not two people, not a group of people trying to save everybody from an old, at least mentality, if not family, if not cabal, if not group that has carried mentalities throughout generations. And hey, if we know about child abuse, we know how malleable kids are, we know how horrible these people can be. No wonder these kids just continue the flow from generation to generation. There's no second guessing because it's all they know. I know I went off on a little tangent there, but just the idea that, Q to me, from when I started seeing it, it simply represented anti-establishment. It represented question things, which is the age-old good guy, in my opinion. So, the cloudiness of, are they opposed opposition? Is it a psyop? Is it a this? Is it a that? Quantum computer.
I don't know if you've heard that lately.
I have not heard that one.
Yeah, so I heard, have you heard of Project Looking Glass?
I've heard the name of it. But
okay, so Project Looking Glass, this is apparently, I forget even where this came from, but, actually it might have even been in Q posts. I'll have to check my app that's still active on my phone.
There you go.
I don't know how. One, Project Looking Glass, which is obviously, top secret beyond, military technology, space technology, like Stargate.
Right. Project Stargate from the CIA.
Yeah, right. Looking into the, time travel, being able to
Looking Glass.
Give hints back to us now, so that's Project Looking Glass. You can look that up.
Yeah.
But recently I've heard about this whole quantum computer, which makes a lot of sense because quantum technology has no space between past and future. It's completely...
So it's Minority Report in a sense.
Yeah, right.
The potential to be so.
Scalar technology, it's pretty out. It's pretty out there, but
not so much.
No, it's not.
It's around the corner, it seems.
Yeah, exactly. So, I'm pretty open-minded to most things.
Yeah.
But just to be a part of, every day, getting an alert on my phone, and it's a lot more than that in terms of Q. I mean, I've spent, not only, I'm looking at now probably about 20 years in terms of this truth journey I've been on.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, Q's a newcomer.
Q's a newcomer, right. And for me, what it did was it tied all the elements of all the stuff that I learned years ago and just was waiting and waiting for it to come into light.
Right.
So it was attractive to me.
Yeah,
People like me, But, when you're certain of something in your heart and your gut, I mean, I just have to stick with it, I'm
totally
obviously very skeptical of anything. But this has been the most... revealing. I mean, like I said, you go back and look into past posts, and you'll see information that we're just learning now. So it's like, how can you even?
Oh yeah, and I believe Sam Tripoli. I think one of his guests was talking about this last week. How just the thing that happens all the time now. Some of the pieces of information you're talking about, we're starting to see come out from the mainstream media, as if it's brand new news, and they're the ones that are spreading it and everything. And it's almost as if it's coming out now. And it's not because they're behind the times. It's because they're strategically placing news stories. I mean, I don't know how we can look at the mainstream media as anything but that now. Like, there's I'd say even a year ago, like I have a friend who actually worked in politics down in Washington, the whole 9 yards.
Same here. Yeah.
And good guy, great guy, and believes in journalistic integrity and all that. And I could sympathize with his idea at the time that the mainstream media had at least 1 foot to still stand on somewhere. And I was already off that boat years before that.
Oh, yeah.
And he's just a guy that, his tinfoil hat isn't as big as mine. But I already fallen off of that. And it's just weird to bump heads with people in this day and age.
Yeah,
to
all the
see
world's a
what's
stage.
going on.
It's really hard to play your role and to, you know, when you're talking with people about anything right now, it's like, you know.
Back to what you were saying about, you know, being censored and you know, Q being a dangerous thing to even us be talking about right now. I mean,
yeah, no, I mean, we could be saying 17 instead. You know, a lot of people I hear now, it's like you can't even mention it.
Right.
So what does that tell you?
Exactly.
That's all,
I mean, that's
you know?
always been the story. It's always been the story forever and ever and ever that the powerful do this. I just don't understand.
It's just levels beyond. I mean, you know.
And it doesn't have to be Trump. Trump doesn't have to be Jesus Christ in order for Q to have legitimacy. I mean, I'm sitting down with a friend who is a good human being. I've known you long enough, and my wife has known you long enough, and I feel like this is one of the most important things to showcase, is a good human being that attributes to, you know, his beliefs to
it's really
somewhat
hard.
to Q.
You know, I've lost so many friendships in the past year. Connections, maybe they weren't friendships. I don't really know. It's almost like acquaintance expectations. Mm-hmm. You know, and being a musician and playing out, I mean, you have to really be careful. Yeah. So, I mean, I've recently just stripped myself completely off of social media.
Good idea.
Because it was just getting too toxic, and I didn't really want to start talking anymore to anybody. You know?
I find my the likes I have gone dramatically down over the past couple of years, and it's funny because I look back. I have, you know, the Facebook memories. Sure. So those pop up with some of the craziest shit I ever believed. Yeah. You know, 17 likes and tons of comments from friends, just joking or going. Sure. Now it is dead serious, and conspiracy theorists seem to have become enemy number one again, back like right after the Kennedy assassination.
No kidding. Exactly. So,
which is where that term comes from.
Correct. But yeah, still trusting the plan.
Fair enough. I don't know what I trust at this point, but I'm watching with bated breath, and I'm wondering. I got worried about the Trump thing because of the elite Democrat thing. I'm like, am I getting paranoid? Is it possible that this could have all been a coup?
I was absolutely very skeptical in the beginning with Donald Trump. Mm-hmm. I definitely went down a massive rabbit hole. Yeah. Like most things. I mean, most nights it's anywhere between, 3 and 6 hours of reading, connecting dots, reading books, microdosing, and trying to find knowledge somewhere.
Ah, now that is a wonderful little...
We can talk about that next. So when Trump announced he was running, I definitely was not surprised.
Right.
I mean, watching him over the years, come against the Obama administration and, years and years of watching television interviews and hearing him come from this position and yada, yada, blah. Mm-hmm. But for me, all it did was it just made me realize, okay, I know who this man is now. At least I think I do. I know who they are.
Definitely.
And that's coming from the, New World Order.
Yep. Oh, we get to call it the Great Reset now.
The Great Reset, right.
But, okay, go ahead.
So, where was I going with that? So, seeing him come out, okay, I'm like, he's going against the New World Order. This is it. This is going to be... This is serious, and realizing that they didn't expect him to win. And let me back up. I was a massive Bernie Sanders supporter.
I liked him.
I went from Ron Paul to Bernie Sanders.
Cool.
I worked on the Ron Paul campaign. So for me, once Bernie got kicked out in 2016, seeing his face, seeing him speak on TV, looks like the guy's life was just completely threatened.
Yep.
One, I was mad at myself for supporting the DNC again because I know they're just crooked bastards. But when Bernie dropped out, they made him drop out. Yeah. It was obvious that, Hillary was going to be the queen of Babylon. Been waiting for that for a really long time. Mm. So when Trump announced he was running, it only made sense to support him.
Right.
And that's just coming from a place of, somewhat understanding world politics and globalization and conspiracy, everything. So, the guy has balls of steel.
Right.
The man is not a perfect man.
Of course not.
No one is, And anytime the media demonizes anybody, it's obviously for a reason. So,
right.
I've supported the guy. I don't know.
Fair enough.
I don't know.
I'm
bizarre.
I just don't trust any politician.
Sure.
That's my hang-up, and I know
he's not a politician.
Fair enough. I do agree with that, and you kind of highlighted the same reasons that I was starting to. If you warm up to him, at least.
If you believe the original Q theory, where the military recruited him.
Oh, interesting.
You didn't hear that?
I never heard about that.
Okay, so that's the whole idea.
That's what they don't tell you.
No.
They don't bother saying that.
No, they don't.
They connect this with lizard people, and that's the end of it.
Right. This morning, my wife said, "Oh, I saw this morning some article I scrolled past that said that QAnon was anti-Semitic and was a cult," and I'm like, this is exactly if you actually sat down with someone for a couple hours and just showed them and had a conversation.
Like maybe we'll have to have a longer episode at some point.
Oh yeah,
we can go through line by line, man. I would gladly do that because I feel like it's important to share real information instead of sound bites.
Yeah, exactly. That's all. So yeah, the military, going back to it, the military recruited Trump. This is a plan that has been in the works for years, which is basically the dissolving of the United States as a corporation.
Right.
And apparently that's already happened. Which I've heard that for a while from a lot of different people who are usually pretty spot on.
Right.
And if you do the research about the U.S. as a corporation, it makes everything come together a little more now than ever when you see what's happening with the military, with Washington, with the Federal Reserve, with Trump.
I have looked
Nasara.
Into Jordan Maxwell's work on the corporation. Now, granted, first of all, my recall is bad from my memory just suffering over the years, but it's hard when I'm in a conversation with someone that, for lack of a nicer term, a priest of the American way, which so many people out there label themselves as without really doing so. They will defend anything about the country as if it's their religious faith.
Totally.
And the voice gets louder, the better points you make, and the argument ensues. Where was I going with that?
Jordan Maxwell.
Yes. So I can regurgitate back to someone who really knows, written American history and written economics and the story that's at least being told to us that I don't know that well.
Yeah.
And I can regurgitate Jordan Maxwell back to someone and they can be like, well, that can't be true because of and I'm just like, crap.
Yeah,
well, you can continue
to
feel that way then.
Right.
I don't have the ammunition to prove it to you, unfortunately. And I don't even know if Jordan does, because at some point, it's the definition of like root terms that are actually the lies. So when someone goes, that can't be, that conspiracy's not true because this is written here. It's like, yeah, but you're misinterpreting the definition of that.
Yeah.
Right? I can't even give an example, but you know what I'm talking about?
Absolutely.
It's all in the fine print. It's all... Because let's give the audience a little bit of what a guy like Jordan Maxwell, this the United States corporation, us as little corporations, correct?
Correct.
From birth?
Yeah, from birth.
So this is an interesting concept, and it's very creepy. And the fact that people dismiss it and just go, no, that can't be true because it's written this way, seems like it's all too coincidental.
We've been under... central bank control for a long time.
Yeah.
This planet has, that the bankers own us. We are units. We are here to work and pay them.
Give them the resources they need to continue their famous quote, way of life.
Great book called Slaves of the Gods by Michael Tellinger.
Love Michael Tellinger.
You have to read that book.
I have not read any of his books.
Oh my God.
But maybe we'll have to have a little book exchange when we do these things.
We'll have a book club.
Book club. I love it.
That book is incredible.
He's a great speaker. I mean, he gets right to the point. I mean, this is kind of where we were heading anyway, because what I wanted to kind of simplify with everything that's going on right now is everybody, when I was younger, everybody I was around, we would always say, oh, they're all after money. Everything's about money. Everything's about money. Then you get a little older. Like, oh, no. Money's just the tool. Mm-hmm. It's all about control. It's all about control. But it's always bothered me to have that as the end game as well. I don't think we're in a position to entirely know what the end goal is. I think that power is also a tool. Control is also a tool. It's not the goal. I can't think that they just all want to live like playboys, and that's the big thousands and thousands of years of this weird cabal that you can trace is all about living lusciously?
Right.
No.
I have my own theory.
I want to hear it. Because we're going to get into some wacky shit.
We'll keep extending through the stratosphere.
Definitely.
The end game, from what I believe is, the people who are in charge of this planet are not from this planet. Mm. They are here to prevent a mass ascension. With the ascension occurring, it basically takes us out of the control game of the solar system. As crazy as that sounds, that's all it is. Through health, through media, through vibration, it's to lower the vibration to prevent it. Once that happens, their game is up, and this planet ascends into the fifth dimension, and that's where we're going.
And I love how crazy it sounds. It does. I've never been
certain of anything that certain in my life.
I know. It's nuts because you say that with a straight face, and it's because when you take the time to read the books, to stay up for the 4 to 6 hours and do the research, when you're open-minded, direct experience being at the top of the list, it's not crazy anymore.
No.
And also think about the most forefront category of science right now is quantum physics. And the most famous quote about quantum physics, what was it, Niels Bohr or someone said, if you think you've understood quantum physics, you have not understood it at all.
Yeah.
So it's like, the weirder things are, the more accurate they seem to be. So it's like,
I can agree.
You can go ahead but another reason why it sounds crazy is just because of little jabs here and there throughout the decades to make mentalities like that laughable or stupid or silly.
Yeah. 2003, 2004, I was a 21, 22-year-old guy, and I remember thinking this back then. Me too. But you couldn't talk to anybody, there was
like now.
There was nowhere to really.
No, I touched on this on my last episode with my friend. I was like, when I was awake before, when I was younger, doing tons of psychedelics and having
How old are you?
I'm 35.
Okay.
But when I was 18, I had my mind blown wide open, and unfortunately back then, what I was going to say was, there was no one to talk to, like you were saying.
Yeah,
and I was saying how now it's like I have a lot of cultural support.
Oh my God,
but
tons.
Before there was none,
it was
which caused me.
Lonely place.
It made me want to go back to sleep.
Oh,
metaphysically.
Sure.
I went right into a bottle, to be honest, for a long, long time because I didn't have any solutions, and anytime I would try to bring up concerns, the only answers I was getting from anyone that I was trying to convince or help or teach or share this with would say something like, so what's the solution? What are you going to do? What's the better system? I'm like, well, I'm not a political scientist. I'm not an economist. You don't have to be a geologist to see the volcano erupting. It's that logic that really holds us back, I find. And I'm sure you've run into that over the years too. That mentality seems to be shrinking. And I think that's good.
Oh my God, we're exactly where we're supposed to be now.
Damn right.
Just the fact that we're sitting here having this conversation. For years, I remember taking breaks. I'd be on break at college, and this is back in 2004, 2005, and going over to go for a hike, and I have journals that I wrote all this shit down in because I'm like, I can't talk to anybody. My friends right now are just going to think, I'm taking way too much acid, which I wasn't then. And, so I have those journals now, and to go back and see what we're just talking about, when I said, I think I have a theory,
So not from this planet.
No, not at all. No.
No. So here's my fascination in this topic. My fascination in this topic is that in one place we have not from this planet, possibly from another planet. Then we have not from this planet, maybe not from this dimension.
Correct. Yeah.
Then
absolutely.
we have a guy. Have you ever heard of David Matheson?
No.
I will turn you on to him because he's got a great website. He's written some books. It's all about star myths, and he very convincingly goes through all the old ancient texts, all the old religious metaphors, and, well, not metaphors, but he interprets them as metaphor.
Yeah.
I know that's not new, but the uncanniness of his examples throughout history, describing everything as movements of celestial bodies or asteroids hitting the planet.
Sure.
We've heard, the fall of Lucifer described as an asteroid or possibly even Venus coming into our solar system.
Yeah.
A lot of different theories.
Totally.
We also have the physical history with some legitimate pieces of evidence, like Sumerian,
the Sumerian
Anunnaki
clay tablets.
Yeah, the clay tablets.
Speaking my language, yeah.
Talking about kings that ruled for thousands of years.
Enlil and Enki.
But then eventually down the line, that same list of people, some of them are corroborated by other cultures. So it's not just nothingness. So we have all these different paths that can describe these same stories.
Absolutely.
They seem to all be saying the same thing,
Exactly.
just on different levels of reality.
Correct.
Whereas on the metaphorical level, well, let's go one step further. I forgot to mention this part, because there's also a lot of New Age talk when you look at the old texts, and they can easily describe the characters, the places, the things that happen as the movement of consciousness through the human body. And you have these different explanations for these ancient stories, but they all seem to have legitimacy.
Absolutely.
Which is very strange.
Yes.
Which brings me to as above, so below.
Yeah, I've been hearing that the past 2 weeks like crazy.
It's been popping up into
I keep
into
seeing
everything.
that. Yeah, I keep hearing that. Yeah.
I mean, it just seems so uncanny that, it can't all be true, or can it? I mean, is it possible that our physical story that possibly happened on this planet is either being reflected from the movement of the stars, or vice versa? Or is the movement of consciousness on this planet affecting the rest of the universe?
Absolutely. Oh yeah. Yeah.
That's the opposite of what science is telling us, though.
Oh boy.
Science tells us we are
Blasphemy.
nothingness.
Right.
We should be happy with our nothingness. We should glorify it. Man, I ate that up for about 10 years.
You did.
I fell for the rock star atheists that have slowly become really, really popular in our culture.
Yeah. Okay.
The Neil deGrasse Tysons, all those guys.
Yeah.
I loved them.
Yeah.
And now I have to reconcile my feelings, because intentional or not, paid off or not, just trying not to lose their jobs or not,
Right.
they're perpetuating a nothingness dead universe. And I don't believe that they're dumb enough to really believe that. Sorry, I know that's not a question.
Yeah. No, right.
just to go where we're going. But.
Yeah.
So what do you think about these ancient stories and these weird connections? Like, what do you think of the Anunnaki and how this fits in?
Yep. So the Anunnaki, I've read all that stuff. Adam and Eve was the first drug bust, I think.
Sounds like it.
The Anunnaki, this could go into the whole reptilian tunnel, and
which is important.
Psychedelic tunnel, and we can go down that road.
Well, let me bust into something. So, the Adam and Eve thing, the connection from the Bible that a lot of the world holds dear.
Absolutely.
Meanwhile, kind of rejecting all the older myths.
Yeah.
Sumer seems to be the birthplace of all of the Judeo-Christian Islam traditions.
Yeah, correct.
But it also seems like a place with ancient aliens and stuff, with Enki and Enlil, these two sky brother and an ocean brother ruling the planet and possibly genetically engineering us as a slave species.
Absolutely, yeah. The slave species, the DNA, the turning off of the DNA, shutting off our perception to realize really what's going on here.
It sounds crazy too. It sounds completely bonkers.
It's great. I guess none of this information, I think, would really make sense unless you really, I'll say it, you need to have a direct experience where we're exiting the dimension we're in right now.
Almost as if we have to take what we've seen inside and then put the puzzle pieces over the overlay of this external world.
Correct. And I mean, this is, where are we going to go with this? This is good.
I like it.
So I think if anything, the pineal gland, we can get into the pineal gland. I think by, when anyone has a direct psychedelic experience, or they've been, eating healthy or meditating for years, or
trauma,
using cannabis, fully, the pineal gland is basically secreting DMT. We know that. With that, we are going into a fifth dimensional space, and whenever that experience is over, whatever we had in that space, we're bringing back into this 3D territory. So I think in the past 20 years, there's been such a rise of, spirituality, psychedelics, meditation.
Which may coincide to all three of them.
Absolutely. So this goes into the whole ascension of the planet. Why were these things illegal? The things that
for
lower
our
your
safety.
the things that lower your vibration are the legal things. The things
Definitely.
That,
I mean, we could even get into the food. I mean, I love meat. I will say it. I passionately will say I love meat, but
sure.
my wife has gone vegan, and I gotta say I understand every single point she makes, and
sure.
everything she's shown me,
yeah,
and everything I used to go, I don't want to look at it. I get it, but
yeah, I've been there, done it.
It sucks.
Yeah.
It's a terrible thing.
Yeah.
But then I sit in my car and drive to work thinking, oh, man, how am I going to not eat meat?
We're animals,
and then I'm sitting on my leather seat.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, it's everywhere.
Yeah.
It's not. And we had an argument at one point because I was slow to at least, try it, try some of this stuff. And, my wife is kind of waking up to all this crazy shit in the world. And I'm just like, listen, I've gone down this. I've come out the other side. And this is when I kind of went back to sleep because I stopped and I said, I can't do anything about it no matter what I do. If I go on the internet to tell someone about an injustice, I'm probably using a rare earth metal that was, causing slavery somewhere. There's no escaping it because it's the whole system.
It's the whole system more than ever right now.
So
yes,
I know we're bouncing all over. Let's get back into the spiritual, ancient past stuff.
Sure.
Because just to fill the audience in a little bit, let's give them a little bit about this Enki and Enlil.
Yep.
Because I've been waiting to do this.
Great.
I wanted to try to do it last time, but I was the only one with any of the information. It's kind of hard to keep it all in track.
Sure.
But so Enki is the water god, and Enlil is this sky god. He's represented by the eagle. Enki's usually represented by the snake, sometimes the fish.
Yep,
which
correct.
is also an interesting correlation to Jesus.
The Pope.
Just to wrap it up, the Anunnaki means from those from heaven to earth came.
Yes.
They came here supposedly. This is from the Sumerian tablets that we have uncovered. This is the work of at least 3 or 4 renowned translators over the decades, including Zecharia Sitchin.
Yep, Sitchin, yeah.
He's discredited all over the place, but he was, before that, like we see all the time, super renowned, and his whole career was respectable until that moment.
Yep.
So, aliens came down, or gods came from heaven. They landed in Sumer, they created it, and they created a slave race.
Correct. Yeah. Have you heard about the
Ajiji?
The Egyptians with there's a really, I gotta let you borrow this book.
Sure.
The whole mining of gold for the atmosphere.
Right. I've heard about, now did that come from Zecharia Sitchin?
I can't recall.
I think it might have, that his translation was they were describing their planet Nibiru.
Correct. Yep.
Otherwise known as Marduk.
Planet X.
Yeah, Planet X, which recently, have you heard the scientific discoveries about deep space near the Kuiper Belt? There's something with massive gravity out there pulling all the other planets.
I've been waiting for years. I've been on the Nibiru. I mean, there was years I was just totally obsessed with this thing coming in.
Yes.
And I mean,
Aliens was my original, tinfoil hat thing. That's
they're coming back.
Oh,
right.
And that's the creepy part. This scientific data says that if there is some planet out there where all the gravity is being weird, it revolves around the sun every like 26,000 years
Yeah.
or 20, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Matches right up with the
Correct.
time periods in the Sumerian tablets.
Yep.
Which, fine. It's a coincidence. You want to call it a coincidence? Fine. You want to live with that weird anomaly in this world? There's something to that. There's something weird about that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was telling my son about Planet X the other day. We were
Yeah.
talking about the planets. I'm like, why don't you look up Planet X? He's
Yeah.
like, what's that? I'm like, we'll find out, I guess.
Yeah, we don't know. We're not sure.
There was a movie made about it with,
No way. Really?
yeah, oh my God. I forget who was in it. And the whole, was it Kiefer? It wasn't Kiefer Sutherland. Who was it? Anyway, the whole movie, they find out that there's this planet coming into our...
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
You're right. I didn't even think of that as an
Did you ever see
Nibiru
it?
movie. Yeah, it was called Melancholia.
yeah.
With
Yeah.
Kirsten Dunst,
Yes.
Kiefer Sutherland. Reefer Sutherland. That movie was the most depressing movie I've ever seen.
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
if another planet is coming in and movies are predictive programming, man, they
That was
want us
wild.
to just die.
And that came out right at the time when, that whole, Nibiru thing started to really show its face in culture, and like Barnes and Noble, I'll be like, oh my God, there's books about this stuff now. This
the
is...
internet started to
Right.
gain
So when that
massive
movie
control.
came out, it was like, I got to see this because...
I
But
didn't
it was
even think of
sad
it
as
that way.
Yeah.
It was super satisfying now that I think back on it. And isn't there a moment? God, just that movie. I should watch that.
It's
again.
bizarre.
There's no interaction with the planet other than
It's just
like literally
coming-
a massive collision.
Right.
You know, I recently saw Greenland, and it's just a dumb action movie. It's just a lovely disaster movie that you can kind of wake up and fall asleep back
Nice.
and forth to. It's got Gerard Butler.
Oh, nice.
It's about a comet impact, and I've been, for the past 5-6 years, ever since I saw him on Joe Rogan's podcast, I've been into like Randall Carlson's work, and it's creepy, man. Watching that movie was straight up a horror movie this time around. It wasn't like watching Armageddon, because like some things that we're hearing, like there's geology teams that are saying it looks like we get hit every 13,000. Every 13,000 years, something just wipes everything out. Like, oh, Jesus. So I'm watching this movie, and there's just this one scene at the end. Just no sound because it's just too loud. Just rocketing overhead. And that's like basically the end of the movie.
One life to live, man.
But so that's the interesting part. Part of the theory about Nibiru is that it's
Yeah.
a planet that only comes within,
Right.
approximation of Earth every 2,600 years or something like that. It's not is it the full 26,000?
I think I got the number
That's
wrong.
the precession of the equinox.
That's
the
the equinox,
20-something thousand.
yeah.
But 2,600, I think, was equaled 1 year or one whatever they called it in the
Right.
Sumerian tablets.
Yeah.
So it does add up in a creepy way. My question is, would it come close enough to destroy the planet like in Melancholia, or would it be more of a maybe it came close enough to damage its atmosphere,
Right.
like Zachariah Sitchin suggests.
I got to get back into those books. It's been so long since.
If you need to borrow any of them, they're all over there.
I mean, I've had these strange thoughts and visions of, they are prepping the planet for total enslavement for the return of this thing. It's coming back. They're, again, this is about preventing a mass ascension.
Right.
And it's like, that's so Star Warsy, but it's
But it's not. It's also
not.
Gnosticism.
It's not. You read religious texts, you read, history, different creation stories. It's the one thing that really makes total sense is there's something headed back to us.
Yeah. Every story says so.
They all say the
Jesus,
same
Ahura
thing.
Mazda, all of them are coming back.
And for this could be coming back, as soon as the return of Christ as a consciousness is coming back. So it's going to prevent Christ consciousness from heading over the planet.
It all fits together. I feel like it's just a matter of the amount of information that you can hold in your head at one time. Because,
too much.
Like I said, trying to explain this to someone that's not into this, it's not necessarily that you don't have the ability to explain it in a good way. It's just there's so much of it. And every time...
so many different levels of it.
Yeah, every time
of
they have a
thought.
question, you have to uproot another thing that they've had to believe.
Exactly.
It's everywhere you turn,
And unfortunately now it's harder than ever because, however long you've been on your journey and me, whoever, you got people who you meet over here, you're over here, you want to come over and they ask you a question about something that you learned this long ago. Now to pull them this way, it's so much harder to get them into that point. And then, like you just said, as soon as you raise, you know, an idea, you almost have to back it up with now something that's going to completely undermine their whole adult life.
Right.
And it could send them into a completely dark depression.
Right.
So
when someone's getting angry, it's not that we don't understand.
Yeah.
We're like taking you out of your comfort zone.
Correct.
They won't. Yeah. They don't like to admit it. Something. It's not a scared thing.
Yeah. Sometimes
it's just crazy, man.
The most obvious things are in plain sight. You know. I mean, this is like, you know, relating it to chemtrails or geoengineering.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's right in front of you. What are you talking about?
Well, it's just crazy to think that they would just be poisoning the air.
They're not that sick. You know, why would they do that to us? You know,
why would they ever do something that doesn't help the planet or us?
And then that becomes a 10-step conversation. It's like, well, do I have this conversation? It's not my job to help these people learn. It's not my job to save people. It's not my job to wake people up. I am a compassionate person, so the want is there.
Right.
But I also have to take self-care and protect myself, because it ends up just being a spiral of burning yourself out. And I've been there, like you said a little while ago. You know, 10 years you had to take off and just get back to...
I had to go back to sleep and pretend it wasn't happening.
Yeah,
or it
I
didn't
never
affect
really
me.
got to do that.
Good for you.
I got really, you know, there was definitely a point of depression in my life where, you know, before I really understood the spiritual aspect of waking up to these horrific things around the planet and questioning things and et cetera, I was like, I'm done. You know, I have nothing. I can clearly remember having a conversation with my mom on the phone. This is years ago, and I wasn't, you know, ready to off myself or anything, but I was definitely at the end of this hole. I felt like I was at the bottom of this. Okay, now I'm either down here in the bottom, or I have to just keep going. And I kept going.
Good for you.
I kept going, and psychedelic therapy helped me get there. You know, it really helped me get there past the point of despair and, oh, well, there's no point to doing any of this. I can't change things.
Right.
What am I going to do? You know.
You have to go past that point. That's the dark night of the soul.
Yeah.
From what I've
Oh, God,
understood.
it's awful. And then to think back who I was at that time having that conversation on the phone, I was like, that's where I was. And now I never feel that way ever. I never feel
That's great.
bummed. I'm lucky. I feel like I have that, because right now people don't have that.
No, I mean
a lot of people don't.
I feel like I feel better than ever about the things that I believe. It's also very nice to be married to the woman I'm married to, because for many reasons,
that
of course. I love you, babe. But mainly because the past, you know, we experienced a trauma in our family, and it shocked her awake in a lot of things. And it's unfortunate because it took me a while to get back there, because I was still just, nope, I don't pay attention to any of this stuff. I'm done. I was done with it a long time ago.
Okay.
So it took me a little while to wake back up. And it's a good thing, because this time around, again, a lot more cultural support with the internet. And,
Sure.
You know, but her coming at it from a different angle that I never have, it was nice, because it made me look back at things that I had ignored the last time I was looking into things, like Hermeticism and the law of attraction, where I completely wrote it off because I was obsessed with guys like Sam Harris and Neil deGrasse Tyson. And there's something to the law of attraction. Abraham Hicks. You know, all these people, there's a lot of good ones. And my friend said a great thing to me. He said, spiritual principles are never... what do you say? Never at odds. Spiritual principles are always aligned. And I took that to mean that it feels a certain way when you hear some of these teachers answer these audience questions.
Yeah.
And they're spot fucking on about everything.
Sure.
And it's as if they're an all-knowing being, but we know they're not. It's not that they're all-knowing. It's that they're vibrating at that frequency where I remember tripping and exclaiming. I was on a lot of acid. I exclaimed, on this side, there's only answers, no questions. Back where we come from, there's only questions, no answers.
Totally.
And I don't even know what that really means, but it seems like when you're vibrating at that frequency, you have an access, a very fluid, natural access to things that connect to one another and make good sense and can't really be argued against.
Right.
And it's a good way to suss out the stuff that doesn't fit. Put it all on the table, connect the things, you know.
Yeah. Dissolving the ego.
Yeah, let's I want to take a short break and then we'll get into the microdosing and possibly some more ancient shit. I think we can connect the psychedelics
Sounds great.
to the ancient.
We can.
Let's see if we can do that. We'll be right back.
Who said that?
Who said,
How much were they paid?
Yeah, who read
and why
that?
are you listening to them?
Also, again, an argument that we're not even supposed to be talking about politics anymore.
Well.
I'm sorry about that, but it's not about being nice. Not about being nice. Did we care if Ike was nice? No, but he gave us some good information, especially at the end. Ugh, not going down that rabbit hole.
Oh my God.
But we
Love
could
it.
because it does connect to aliens.
Absolutely. Yep.
Treaty of Granada? Or no, Greada?
Something like that.
Yeah. 1954, I think.
Oh my God.
That's a totally different rabbit hole. But, okay, so we've been talking about a lot of cool stuff, but we've been kind of inching towards, like, psychedelics and microdosing.
Yeah.
And you and I both have a collective of information and experiences.
Yeah,
and we've never had a
absolutely.
chance to really talk about our experiences.
Sure.
So what do you, what's your take on why they're here?
They're here to wake us up. They're here to connect us back to back to the earth. They're here to make us ascend, to make us into we're creator beings. You know, the whole the psychedelic realm is where I find the idea of being a creator is really what it's all about. Not only creating, whatever, writing a poem, writing a song, whatever. I mean, creating and manifestation. There's been times in, my psychedelic experiences over the last 23, 24 years where I've seen shit happen in front of me that you can't explain the unexplainable.
There's no words. There's no words.
They're here to just make us be creator beings and return to the Godhead. I mean, that's it, really.
So,
not a long answer, but
no, anyway, it's a perfect answer. And it's, again, another thing that is completely cut and dry to me, but to a general audience, probably is getting less crazy, but still crazy.
Yeah.
Right now, I think, what would you say the mainstream would accept at this point? That they seem to have some medical use, so maybe
We're going there, yeah.
the hallucinations are, because these people will probably consider, what the hell are they really here for then if they're actually good and they're not these crazy dangerous drugs that we were all told?
Right. Okay,
maybe they're just medicines and Native Americans used to use them or something. And that's probably where they end the thought.
That's probably it. McKenna said the drugs of the future will be computers. The computers of the future will be drugs.
That is beautiful. I never heard that Terrence quote.
And it makes a whole lot of fucking sense.
Yeah, it does. Because
being
literally
a
things
psychonaut.
that we are on, well, at least in the way that we've treated drugs, which is mind expansion.
We are drugs.
Well,
Yeah.
right. But the way we've treated, chemical drugs as, like little ascension buttons to wake us up or, breakers of control, whatever,
Sure.
the dissolvers of culture or whatever.
Exactly. Dissolving culture, dissolving the ego, ending duality.
Right. It can do these things, and we've always, as a culture, we've seen them as the enemy and stuff like that. Now, information on computers is the enemy. And you could easily go off on how we as conspiracy theorists or free-minded people are now, enemy number one as domestic terrorists, and it's going to be more and more. But this psychedelic thing at the same time is being actually pushed by kind of a lot of mainstream places.
We're going there now. That's where we're taking it.
Is it just because it's inevitable and they're just trying to jump on board?
That's what I think.
Because I feel like half of our community, as free-minded people, a lot of us are worried that the government or the establishment or the mainstream is accepting of them. It gives a lot of really out there conspiracy theorists a reason to say, see, this is why drugs are still bad, and I don't know what to make of that. I know we're still kind of circling around psychedelics and stuff, but it's something that I've wanted to ask someone.
Yeah.
What do we do about the fractions in that community? Maybe psychedelics actually are the answer. Maybe they're the unifying thing, because it's
Seems that way.
It would bridge. It would maybe, because I see a lot of hardcore Christian conspiracy theorists.
Sure.
And
What
it's
are they saying?
it's unfortunate to see, because they will look at everything or anything that is occult, and it is evil, and it is bad, and it's connected to the cabal and the child molesters and all of that. Which, in a sense, they have a point, because magic is the Force from Star Wars. It can be good or evil.
Absolutely.
But there's a whole portion of our community that is questioning everything except for the Bible. And it's like, come on, guys. How have you guys not run into the story of Constantine and the Council of Nicaea and the Gnostic texts? And it's like, what do we do about our community? And I think psychedelics actually might be one of the answers. And,
I agree fully. Absolutely.
It's a connector.
Yeah.
It's a unifier.
It's a unifier. I mean, I had my first psychedelic experience back in November 28th, 1998.
That's beautiful.
And I can remember it like yesterday. And I've probably tripped a few hundred times in my life. It was at a Fish concert.
Beautiful.
But
so cliche.
It's so cliche, but, and it's funny. I remember being, offered the acid where I was walking towards the show. I was 16 years old. Mom and Dad, you won't hear this. It's okay. And the only thing I had on my head when I had this little piece of paper and I had it in my pocket, and I went into the Centrum waiting for my friends to show up. And I remember sitting there before the show started, and all I could think was, this is what the Beatles did. Yeah. And being the Beatle guy that I am, I had no hesitation. I said, this is it. I have it in my hands. I'm doing it. And from that day on, I loved it. I took a lot of acid my first year in college. I mean, I just took so much of it. I loved it. Yeah. And it brought me to where I am now. And I think, in terms of breaking down, anytime I've tripped with a number of people, everyone's together. We're in that place of magic, and I think for people to not have that experience, it's like McKenna said, we'll go to the grave without a sexual experience. Yeah. It's like going to the grave and never getting out of this reality, stepping out of this space to have an idea of there's a lot more than me, you know, and also I am responsible for everything here. No one's pushing me along the way. Right. And, a psychedelic experience tunes you right into God. I mean, I was an altar boy. I was raised in the Catholic Church, getting the host week after week, and then realizing, oh, there's another cult. You've heard about that?
Which one?
The Jesus Mushroom Cult.
Oh, yes. Okay. What was John Marcus Allegro?
That sounds about right. Right.
What was it? Jesus Christ and the Cross? Or no, the Cross and the Sacred Mushroom, or something like that. Yeah. But I've read another book too. I have it out on my shelf. I'll let you borrow it. It's called The Mystery of Manna, and it's more about it's more examples from the Bible about the Holy Sacrament being probably a mushroom,
right,
or something like it. And then recently, have you heard about that book, the Immortality Key?
No.
The History of the Religion with No Name. Doesn't that sound intriguing?
Whoa.
It's all about literal proof, man. It's out there, and it's being accepted by the mainstream news outlets that this guy reports on all these studies being done that have conclusively found psychedelic compounds in caves in Israel and sacramental locations.
Yeah, absolutely.
He goes into a lot more than that. He's a translator by trade, the author, and he goes deep. It's beautiful. Times bestseller, and that makes me feel good.
Wow.
And going back to the manifestation thing, it's funny, we finally get to talk. We have a lot in common because the whole Beatles revelation.
Yeah.
As soon as I was on mushrooms for the first time, I had that. I'm with Paul and John and George, right, and Ringo right now. Like, this is what they were talking about in the fucking lyric. Oh my God, Tool. Oh my God. 9 Inch Nails.
Oh yeah,
all
I've seen this guy with diamonds. I remember just being like, "Oh man, this is
Marmalade
now I'm
Skies.
gonna see where this comes from."
Yes, they're always like, "Oh yeah, they went out and hung out with that guru for a while, but then he turned out to be kind of a fraud, and he kind of blah 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 blah."
True.
And therefore, the mentality they just reject that beautiful awe that we have. Like, oh my God, now we understand the beauty. That immediately goes away, and they go, no. So they just gave that part of their lives up.
Yeah.
Bullshit.
Yeah,
or then they say, oh well, George just stayed weird. No. They all kept that shit.
Yeah, I mean
but the manifestation thing, man. Yeah. I'm sorry.
That's good. Yeah, it's good.
What I wanted to say about the manifestation thing is that with psychedelics, when I was doing them back then in the day, when our stories were kind of similar, and I was saying to myself, oh my God, this is everything. Oh my God, this must be where religion comes from. A topic I had no interest in before that.
Right.
Oh my God, this is going to be the medicine of the future. Oh my God, this makes sense. This is going to be everywhere. This makes sense. And now I wake back up and it's fucking everywhere.
It's everywhere.
So did I help? Did we all help manifest that because of our
helping? Yeah, exactly. That's what I said.
That's what I wanted.
When we're going in those spaces, I mean, think about how many people, have tripped over the last 20 years. And by bringing all these thoughts into our world right now, of course we're changing things.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, manifestation is such a rock solid foundational thing.
Yeah,
it's so obvious that it's right underneath our nose. It seems like no one really recognizes it. And when you do something like psychedelics, it seems like that manifestation gets right in your face and goes, yeah, I've been here the whole time. Yeah. Like, all of these things have been here the whole time.
Yeah. My psychedelic experiences with music really changed me more than anything.
That's great.
And not many people can perform on psychedelics, I don't think. I'm a keyboard player, I'm a guitar player, but, a lot of my experiences over the years playing keyboards live in front of a lot of people, what that experience did to me, and I didn't do it a ton, but the times I did, you dissolve all, where now not only do you have to keep up with the music, but you are, and this is improvisational music, so
right.
Being in that space, in the creative space, and, manifesting, what am I hearing in my head? I'm going to translate it to this piano. Now it's sounding like this. Now the 5 of us are communicating in this way. I'm taking stuff in from, the higher realms, translating into this. That made me kind of lose a lot of idea of myself, and I think over the years, with the psychedelics, it's dissolving the self into... even though we all still will have egos, just saying you don't exactly means you have an ego.
Saying I'm enlightened is ego.
And man, it's funny you say that. I've had people over the past couple of years say to me, "Oh, you're so enlightened. Why don't?" And I'm like, I have never said that word about me. You may think that that's what I'm trying to do, but what are we doing?
That's the same thing when you get, so who's running the show?
Yeah.
Who's running the whole thing? Who's behind the whole... Well, when did I claim to be...
Nothing's going to ever happen, dude.
Deep Throat. What the fuck?
Yeah. Enlightened, so...
Well, it's the same thing when I reject the current political system and everyone's like, well, what's the better one? I'm like, I have no idea.
What's the better
Let's get the best minds together and fucking come up with one. Yeah. This ain't working.
No shit.
Again, you don't have to be a geologist to see the volcano erupt.
It's brutal.
And tell the people to run. you know?
Yeah, yeah.
So,
but by having the psychedelic experiences have opened eyes to these things.
Yeah.
A lot of people who are, they're living good lives. They have great hearts. They're great people. Being a part of that, matrix political system, for the most part, a lot of these people have never opened up the portals or opened up their third eye. So they're seeing it from a completely different perception than we are. Right. So it's very hard to live those realities at the same time. But now I think what we're doing is we are living in two different worlds. We're in a split of dimensions right now, because the people like me and you, or everyone else who have had those 5D psychedelic experiences, now we are living more in the ethereal plane in terms of our consciousness. We're able to, visualize our 5-dimensional realities, but we're still observing a 3D world. I tried to explain this to my kid the other day, and I should have. But how are you able to see? I'd say, all right, son, think of a horse, but look at me. And I'm like, what do you see? He's like, I see a horse. I'm like, do you see me? And he goes, yeah. I'm like, well, how are you seeing the horse? He goes, I'm like, that's right. I'm like, you have an eye right up here.
That's right.
So,
that's a similar experiment is trying to think of two things at the same time. You can't do it, but you can sing and you can think of something at the same time.
Right. So how are we able to see all this stuff up here? How are we able to access this information here? We're using a 5-dimensional space, but, by opening up that old pineal gland, using medicine,
third
eye, we're bringing that into this world. So that's why we have a 3D world over here where people are, living their lives, and the political system's great, and, you work, you take care, you go home, you die. Then there's people like me and you who are every day questioning everything happening. We're living this magical life. We're grateful for all things. We don't believe in this. We're open to this. That is a 5D perspective. Yeah. So we are living in that complete split right now, that's a whole other conversation about the end of the Mayan calendar.
Yeah. The end of the Mayan cycle.
The end of the world as you knew it, which I think we've experienced.
Dude, so the shift, the lineup of the alignment of the planets that happened right on the solstice, which was beautiful, hadn't happened.
Wild.
Like 1,500 years or something crazy like that.
The Grand Conjunction,
this is again where I'm skeptical. I think skepticism is important, but then my skepticism leaks into my spiritualness, my spiritual life. I'm always like resisting and holding back and always going, yeah, but what if that's what if that's snake oil? What if that's not true? What if that part? Because there is so much fat on top of the truth.
There's a lot of fat
There's a lot of fat, even among like I said, in our community. Because, what I'm learning about the Bible, it's things that I pulled from my psychedelic experiences out of what I directly experienced and thought and like trends of thought that happened are now I'm learning about from researchers that are looking into Bible and other textual references, saying that, you know how one of the tricks the devil likes to play in the Bible is he likes to switch things around?
Right.
Well, gee, what if he did that in the Bible itself? That's kind of what I'm learning, and it kind of
the Bible is
it connects the dots with Gnosticism and mysticism and the East and the magic and the this and the that and the confusion with the bad occult versus the light magic versus dark magic, perhaps. It's all
nuts.
Like psychedelics has opened us up to see these things as what they are. As in, the metaphorical language that we use every day is a real place.
Correct.
It's like
it's a place.
It's a mental place.
Right.
And it's made of metaphor, and it's literally what creates this place.
Everything. Yeah.
It's so confusing.
Reality creates language.
It can sometimes lead to solipsis, where I've had trips thinking, wait, does this mean I'm God?
Yes.
Trust me, it was not an egocentric fun feeling.
Yeah.
It was a terrifying, horrible, lonely, awful feeling. It's an interesting point because, like you said, a lot of people get there on psychedelics.
Oh, I've been
there. Why? What is that? What does that mean?
I think it's totally
because it's confusing. It's taken me 15 years to even come close to understanding it.
I trip on this all the time, and that's the reason why
it's the Truman Show.
Participate so much.
Oh, okay.
Last night.
Beautiful in the microdosing,
yeah.
So it's keeping you open to these pieces of information more easily, maybe?
I feel like such a better person that I,
No shit.
microdose as much as I do, which isn't a lot, but it's a couple times a month.
I've never tried it. I've never tried to
It's
microdose.
amazing, especially if you've had big trips. And in terms of psilocybin, I mean, I tried mushrooms for the first time probably 2001 or 2002.
Okay.
And at the time, I didn't know anything about them. It was the cliche, eat me blacklight poster.
Right.
These are going to make you sick, but you might see stuff.
I
And
heard
was
it's like stronger than weed, man.
Yeah, let's do it. And
What a
it
joke.
wasn't until probably 2008 or 9 I really understood what they were doing. And that's from falling down the McKenna rabbit hole. And I was like, all right, let's do this in a sacramental way by myself.
5 dried grams
I still
of
haven't
darkness.
done 5G. But I've done enough to, we were just saying, where did we go? Where did we come from?
Consciousness and...
I am God. Is that what
Yes,
we're saying?
the solipsis feeling, the
Yeah.
Truman Show feeling, where suddenly
Exactly.
you feel like, wait, is this all for me?
Yeah.
It's not a egoic feeling.
No,
it's
it's your
a
higher
scary
self
feeling.
talking to you, too.
What the hell is it?
You
I mean,
know?
because we're not. Because then you start to worry. Then you get into that problem of is everybody else, an automaton? Am I the only one here? And obviously I don't think that, but that's the paranoia.
Yeah.
So why is the spiritual experience confusing us so easily?
Because
it's dangerous.
I think it's just when we come back and our ego and our third dimensional self, comes back into light after indulging or whatever.
Yeah.
It's painful because, the eyes that are looking out your head are the same eyes that have seen everything your whole life. So I think it's hard. I think it's because
there's a lot to reconcile.
There's a lot to reconcile, and again with psychedelic therapy, I always call it cleaning out the file cabinets.
Good way to put it.
It took about 3 years of me to really go through a lot of stuff, using it as therapy. So now whenever I use them or they use me, it's a whole different experience because now I'm not like, oh man, I remember that time where I was a kid and I had this traumatic experience and I haven't talked to anybody about it yet.
Right.
Now all these things are gone. So by cleaning yourself out, you're dissolving your understanding of your existence, and to come back to the place of, wow, I am a creator God. Have you ever taken mushrooms and read the New Testament?
No, I
Good luck on that sometime.
Wow.
It'll
That
make you,
would be-
I mean, for me, I did that a little bit here and there. And what I find is the Old Testament, and there's 2 different gods in the Bible.
Yeah, we're talking about Jehovah, or I would say Yahweh is the same guy as Jehovah. He's
Right.
that same warring son of a bitch. And then there's this Jesus character.
Who talks about the kingdom inside of you.
Right.
That's
What I was talking about the old switcheroo.
Yeah.
That there's some good lectures out there right now,
Let's
kind
refer-
of using the Bible, saying this is not God that they're talking about when they're
Right,
talking
false
about
light.
Yahweh or Jehovah. That's not God. It's Enlil.
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's a backwards idea to a lot of the stuff. A friend of mine the other day was
It's this
talking about
fallen one.
fallen angels. Like when you die, don't go to the light.
Don't
It's
go
like,
to the light. Do
what
not go
an
to the light.
anxiety-ridden
Yeah.
thing. You mean when this happens, I'm going to think about you? Oh,
And
my God.
think about how ubiquitous
Michelle-
going towards the light
Yeah.
is in our stories. Everyone says you're supposed to
Go to the light.
So how many of us are
Lucifer's
dying
the
and
light.
heading towards that fucking
Lucifer's the light. What does
Lucifer
that
is the
mean
light
now?
bringer. Oh.
It's,
And
again,
for a while
too
I was
much.
really confused. I was like, wait a minute. So Lucifer's the light bringer. So since when is a light bringer a bad guy? Of course, he's the good. Okay, no wonder why the occult is into Lucifer, but everyone's trying to demonize. It's really tricky. It's really tricky.
Absolutely.
But this really helped, these lectures I've been watching, because it makes sense now. Okay, so this warring, wrathful, jealous asshole that you can see and you have a name for,
You have a name.
human-like, a being-like name for in the Bible, is not this all-encompassing, loving God that Jesus portrays.
Right.
So that's the devil. So what I've realized from my psychedelic experiences is these stories are so personal for some reason.
Oh, sure.
And it's weird. It felt really weird. Like early on, I took a quarter of psychedelic mushrooms one time and laid on a friend's bed with face down for like 8 hours straight.
A quarter?
Yeah, dude, a quarter. And I was literally seeing like the entire human language in front of me. It was a spiral. I was literally, oh man, if you put words in the right order, it tells the human story. Like just crazy shit.
Yeah, sure.
But man, the rabbit holes were pretty nuts. And I came out thinking, what the fuck do I have to do with these religious stories? Why are they so personal to me? Why? I was going down the atheist trail. What the hell happened?
Yeah.
And like I started to feel like you feel like Jesus or Indiana Jones when you're tripping.
Oh my God.
And even Tool talks about it. Do you ever hear that song by them, or Rosetta Stoned?
No. Oh, go.
Perfect title. It's about alien abduction and clearly like a spiritual psychedelic awakening. And he says, overwhelmed as one would be if placed in my position. Such a heavy burden now to be the one, born to bear and read to all the details of our ending, to write it down for all the world to see. But I forgot my pen. Shit the bed again.
That's awesome.
I mean, how perfectly does that sum up
that's what it feels like.
That ridiculous experience? Like,
Right.
I wanted to run out and, like, I think Ram Dass wrote it in Be Here Now. Did you ever read that beautiful book?
That's another conversation. Of course.
That's a beautiful book. One of the pages was, once you see it, once you know it, you want to run screaming down the church aisles telling everybody the good news.
Right.
And he's talking about mushrooms and psychedelics, and it's just such a beautiful
Some
thing.
people just don't get it, man. I mean,
they're scared.
They're very scared, and I get it, you know.
And that's okay.
Dissolving boundaries,
It's totally
and that's okay.
I think their journey here this time around, they weren't supposed to be doing this kind of stuff.
Right.
Maybe they already had this, and now they're here to enjoy it.
Maybe,
because this
right.
isn't necessarily all joy and happiness.
No.
It's a lot of turmoil. And
it's a lot of turmoil.
And you know, just like the world has to do right now, on an individual level, it's the same thing. It's you go into a self-discovery. It's a lot of facing the shadows to get rid of the shadows. Yeah. And now we're seeing our world have to do the same exact thing.
That's what it is. We've externalized the awakening. That's what it's like. God. That's what it feels like. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Shit. I don't know if you want to. We can keep going. We can tell some stories. Why don't we get into some? So how about let's get into your connection with psychedelics, and maybe branching into UFOs, aliens.
Yeah, sure.
Because that's one of my favorite things.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And it goes hand in hand with psychedelics. I mean, especially when you think of Terence McKenna and his connection to both of those experiences and how he interlaces them.
Yep.
With DMT and the machine elves.
The machine elves, self-dribbling basketballs.
The symbiotic language.
I mean, I don't know about you, but what's better than spending 8 hours with Terence McKenna on YouTube and eating an eighth of shrooms?
Done it,
been
house. There, and man, his voice was like flowing right through me.
That's what it feels like. Isn't it strange?
Made perfect sense.
Yeah.
He was talking to me half the time and saying shit I didn't even think was on the lecture.
Yeah, it's bizarre. So ETs, I mean, I had my first experience when I was 8.
Wow.
I remember it like I can replay it right back up here in my head, you know.
Wow.
You know, I was looking out my bedroom window and I saw, must have been 4 different craft, different colors, and they were basically spinning in this pattern. And it must have been, it must have been a minute or two just looking at it. And they were way off in the distance. And I called for my parents, come up. And I can remember them hearing them come up the stairs. And as soon as they came in my room, everything just went. Whew. That was the first one. I'd say probably over the last 31 years now, I've probably had about 12, 13 different experiences. Wow. I've never had. Yeah. It's been pretty wild. I mean, anything from. There was a period of my life, probably 7 or 8 years ago, maybe a little longer. I had this little voice in my head that would say, "Look up." And boom, there it would be.
Did it look the same as you remember as being as a
different.
kid?
I've seen so many different things, man. And either if it's military or I'm tuning into a completely different dimension happening. I'm looking into the past. I'm looking to the future. I've
the
seen
inconsistencies are really intriguing.
Yeah.
It doesn't discredit anything, but it's I've heard theories like, oh well, different countries, look at their UFOs, they look different.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa.
Yeah. I mean, probably the strangest experience I've ever had with them was in Colorado with my 2 cousins, and I mean, this takes the cake. I'll go to the grave with this one.
Sweet.
We went on a really, really nice hike, and my cousins are really into all this stuff too. And we said, okay, we're gonna go on the roof, and we're gonna summon one.
Stephen Greer style.
This is
what
before
he's
I think we
perpetuating.
even knew who he was.
Oh, of course.
Crazy.
Oh, yeah. He's a new guy.
So we went up on the roof and sat in a circle, 3 of us, and closed our eyes. And about 1 minute later, fucking thing came right over our head. It's crazy.
Wow.
Triangle shape. It had a hollow circle in the middle, and it had 3 lights on each corner. And the thing was hovering over us, maybe, oh my God, I mean, it was a couple hundred feet, a few hundred feet.
How big did it appear to be?
It was big. I mean, it was probably, if I had to take a guess, I mean, looking at it from my perspective, it was probably like 2 school buses.
Okay.
I don't know why I said school
So
bus.
like maybe 60 feet.
Something like that.
That's big.
Was over us for a few seconds. Flew off faster than anything I've ever seen in my life. Me and my cousins were shaking and just kind of looking at each other, freaking out.
Wow.
We proceed to get our old flip phones and call one of our parents because we couldn't even comprehend what just happened because we permanently, we went up there to do that.
Yeah.
They didn't believe us.
No.
And the 3 of us, man, I mean, we talk about that thing all the time. I mean, to have an experience with other people.
That's so important.
That's the only time it's ever happened. Every other time it's been by myself and just in complete amazement where, like I said, it was always this little, hey, look.
Take a look.
But I mean, I've seen shit dissolve into like, whew,
yeah.
like a screen, like a Truman Show style. Like here's the craft.
Yes.
Here's this vanishing point.
Right.
Oh, now it's just gone. I mean,
I've noticed that UFO videos, to me, the most common videos that you see.
Yeah. Are fakes.
Yeah, well, okay, yes, sure. But so, okay, at least what I can corroborate.
Yeah.
From my one experience, I've only had one, and it was 2 summers ago or 1 summer ago. Can't remember. That's how bad my memory is.
Yeah.
But my son and I were looking up at an airplane, a 747 with all the beautiful chemtrails behind it. And
that's from Logan Airport, dude.
Yeah. And so I just pointed at the plane, showed my son,
yeah.
And what do I know? There's 5 objects dancing up there, little glimmering white objects. Now at first I'm like, okay, calm down. Maybe it's space dust, or not space dust, but maybe it's just maybe it's something. Maybe it's 9 million other explanations. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. But then they became deliberate movements, definitely.
Right.
Where 4 of them were whipping around the chemtrail, like the exhaust trail of the plane.
It's funny you say that.
Like you could literally tell when they would vanish behind it and then come back around.
Right.
I don't know how big those trails poof out to be
they
far away from the plane.
Eventually, yeah.
Eventually they get really big. So they may have been whipping around like hundreds of feet or thousands of feet. I don't know. But then 4 of them blinked 1, 2, 3, 4 out of sight, and the other one went boom off to the right and up and out of sight. I have video footage of the one darting off to the right, and it's very shaky. It's just bad footage, zoomed in. Never even bothered to blow it up on a big screen to look at it.
Sure.
But
you know what you saw.
I know what I saw.
Yeah.
Definitely. But it feels like some of these weird sightings of these objects, they almost move like a mouse cursor.
Absolutely.
Like they make no sense
There's
in
no
physics.
sense at all.
No
Nothing.
sense. And they're not fake because you're seeing it.
Correct. Right.
So you're not seeing a CGI situation with a green screen. That vanishing point thing you're talking about.
Crazy.
The fading in and out of objects, almost like it's a frequency.
That's exactly it. That's what I felt at times seeing them, and it just feels like that. It's like, oh, I'm tuned into this thing. Oh, now it's gone.
Right.
Did it tune into me? Like, what is going on?
Did it
here?
leave or did I? You know what I mean?
It's wild.
Man. And now I'm glad that part of the UFO conversation has really taken a hold in everywhere, mainstream, fringe, everywhere.
Yeah.
Because it's connecting it back to the spiritual. It's connecting it back to the psychedelic.
Yeah.
And that's what a guy like Sam Tripoli likes to say. He goes, conspiracy theory leads to spirituality.
Absolutely.
And I think that's a beautiful way to put it.
It's
because
so true.
Like the conversations we try to have with people that don't see it the way we see it, what we're really talking about is having to dispel things every 5 seconds and have to go backwards. Well, no, now I have to unexplain this to you first before we explain what I was originally talking about. What we're really trying to get to is this. It's, hey,
exactly.
You're actually not experiencing the whole thing. I want you to see
try
it.
that.
I want
Talk
you to
to me
see
next
it.
week.
I know
Take
it sounds
these.
convenient. I know you think I'm dressing up and cosplaying as Neo. I'm not. That's what the Matrix was about.
That's what. Right.
And I'm not. I'll say this right now. I am making my stance so no one can ever, misquote me. I am completely in favor of everyone's right to live exactly how they wish.
Yeah.
If my son eventually wants to do some different stuff and wants to become a woman, I would support it if that was what made it. All that stuff, I would have to. Totally.
Free will.
That being said, it is creepy that both Wachowski brothers, I've heard both of them now, are now women. Because there's conspiracy theories out there, I don't know the depth of them. I don't know how much I should hold on to it, or maybe this is a floof one that shouldn't be taken seriously. But, you got Dave Chappelle and others talking about how many black men...
I was just talking about that
as soon as they get a chance to become more famous, they're always in dresses and stuff like that.
Isn't that? Yeah. I just had that conversation.
And that's Dave Chappelle's words. That's me just witnessing what someone...
So true, though.
Usually has to be pretty careful about what he says.
Yeah.
That
was so eye-opening when he came out and he talked about that, because
it's buck-breaking.
Culture moves so fast, you forget these movies came out, and then all of a sudden, oh my God.
Yeah. All of them. And then you see a lot of black actors coming out and talking about it now.
Yeah.
And I don't want to speak too much on it.
Whatever.
I don't want to, but it's not just the black community either. That's kind of where I was going with it. Because then you look at Tom Hanks and Bosom Buddies and you're like, oh God, now these other weird connections, I don't like it. I just want to watch Forrest Gump with impunity. I don't want to have any bad thoughts about like one of my favorite actors.
Yeah.
I really don't. I don't. But it's
Isaac Happy.
It's suspicious as fuck. There's a lot of weird shit, and it's like I don't want to go down that far, that out there, but
we are already there.
We're already there, man. We're already pulled over, man. We can't pull over any further.
We're already there, Paul McCartney's not dead. I'll just say that.
Thank God. Thank God. But that's, what was that? Was that
it's so convincing.
Was that a record label thing to just like make people
so
paranoid? I mean, my God, that's the weird thing about circling right back to psychedelics is the government's hatred of them, at least for our benefit.
Oh my God!
But their love for them when it comes to mind control, which is not a conspiracy theory.
No.
It's just public fact. Sure. MK Ultra.
Yep.
The problem is
Mark David Chapman.
Mark David Chapman is a very worrisome situation. That movie Conspiracy Theory with Mel Gibson.
I remember that.
Is a beautiful homage to that whole situation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, man. I mean, we could go down a million we could go further with the UFOs. I mean, we could come back another time and do a whole episode about each of these fucking topics.
Absolutely. I'd love to. Yeah, dude.
But I really appreciate sitting down with you finally. I mean, I think this was really fun. We should do it again sometime.
Absolutely agree.
And
thanks for having me.
Shit. Thanks for getting deep with me, man.
Oh, absolutely.
All right, well, see you guys next time.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Deep Share Podcast. If you want to hear more, then hit that subscribe button. Follow me on all the social places. And remember, think for yourself, but don't always believe what you think.
sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria. Enough, I got the point.
You have meddled with the primal forces of nature. And you will atone.
What do we know? What do we know? If I know what we know, then I can tell you what we know, and if someone else knows, okay?